Okay. This is a video about stating the obvious. What's obvious to some people is not obvious to other people. Why the hell should you own an FX camera anyway? Now, things are actually due to signal-to-noise ratio and 80 converters, like the new Canon 5D with 51 megapixels. The pixel pitch on it is very much, forget the micrometers, it's somewhere around 7 point something micrometers. Basically, it's the same pixel pitch as the Nikon D7100. Gain. All exposure is gain in time. I mean, the reason for having, like, for example, the Nikon D, let's make this analogy really simple so that people that understand it. All exposure is gain in time. ISO is applied gain. ISO has no connection to exposure. This is not the days of film where ISO was something physically real, i.e. the size of the grain halides, the silver halides on the film emulsion. Gain and time. Basically they're both 20 megapixel cameras. Well, this is a crop sensor camera. The Nikon D5 is a huge camera. That's the reason why that camera has insane high ISO performance. It has better gain over the same period of time than does the Nikon D500. Since they're both 20 megapixel sensors, not only, we also have better 80 converters on the Nikon D5, we also have, who knows on that one, better SNR firmware conversion. Better SNR signal processing, signal-to-noise ratio. That's actually where noise has certain frequencies, by the way. Of course, you can apply noise reduction software either with an Adobe plugin in Lightroom or in Photoshop, or like denoise projects, which is also noise reduction software. Those always work a lot better than in camera. What's the reason that you would want to have a DX camera versus an FX, or vice versa? First, let's talk about the actual advantages of having a DX camera. Let's ignore the fact that there's only one person in the world that has a YouTube channel that says you shouldn't use FX lenses on DX bodies. That is absolutely nonsense. Every lens in the world is exactly the same. They have no regard in how they work. They crap out the same light regardless of the size of the sensors underneath them. A crop is a crop is a crop. Advantages of a DX camera. Sports, action, wildlife. If you need to crop in, so you're taking a picture of a speckled-breasted woodpecker at 200 yards, you need to crop the hell out of that shot to zoom in, so to say, to enlarge the image of that bird. You can make an 8 by 10 out of it, or 20 by 30, regardless. You want as much information on that little tiny part of the shot that you took as possible. The pixel pitch, like this one, 20 megapixel sensor versus a Nikon D5. It's a full frame sensor, also 20 megapixels. This one has more translational information per square millimeter of sensor. If the image I take of that little woodpecker, for example, is only taking up about 5 millimeters by 5 millimeters on my sensor, with the same lens, okay? Let's just say it's this lens. This is an FX lens I could use on the D500 or use it on the Nikon D5 and take a picture of the exact same bird at the exact same time with the exact same lens. There's more information of that bird and all its little damn details captured on the sensor here than on the Nikon D5. There's the big boon, the advantage of the DX crop sensor camera. This is also the reason why, National Geographic photographers and others are using Nikon D7100s, D7200s, Nikon D500s for bird and wildlife photography, because they usually crop the hell out of their shots and you have more information there. So there's the winner for the DX. This is where FX fails. What? FX fails on something and DX wins? Yes, there's one advantage where it does win over full-frame sensor cameras. Try to make this as simple as possible. Sometimes that's not very easy. The issues, however, where FX wins, because everybody's moaning about, where do I get an ultra-wide lens? Like a Takina. Two lenses that I recommend, ultra-wide lenses for Nikon. Takina 11-16. Or the Nikkor 12-24 f4, not a cheap lens. The Takina 11-16 millimeter is like, yeah, but I mean in DX crop mode, we're looking at basically 16 millimeters, 11-16. Yeah, it's just not that wide. It's like, well, there's one of the real reasons why you own an FX camera. All these people keep asking me, it's like, well, there's just nothing out there wide enough for DX. And I go, you're right. That's one of the reasons, like for landscape photography and wide-angle stuff, architectural, city, because a 20 millimeter is just a great wide-angle lens for like the 20 millimeter 1.8G, an epic prime lens. However, that lens is 30 millimeters on any crop sensor camera. It's like, yeah, that doesn't really cut it. It's like, you're right. That's what you own a full-frame camera for. You're not really cropping landscapes and cityscapes too much, are you? No, you zoom with your feet and you take the shot that you want, and you got a nice 36 megapixel or 42 megapixel, whatever your full frame camera is. Makes a nice, beautiful 20 by 30 print. And here's the big advantage where full frame just takes a big old dump on DX cameras, okay? DX cameras have a deficiency for ultra wides and ultra wide zooms. It's just, there's no getting around that. Is 11 to 16 wide? It sure the hell is for FX, yeah, but you take that 11 to 16 and you mount it on a DX crop sensor camera. It's like, it's not really wide enough. And I go, you're right, that's where you need to go buy a full frame sensor camera. Also, equivalency. A lot of people love to go back and forth about equivalency. They don't realize that a crop is a crop is a crop. Now, a 56 millimeter has basically the same field of view as an 85 millimeter does on a full frame camera. You take an 85 millimeter on a Nikon D810 or some other full frame camera. Okay, 85 millimeters. So to get that same field of view, I need to get like a 56 millimeter. Or even a 60 millimeter, close enough, okay? 60 millimeter, 56 millimeter Noctune or 60 millimeter Nikkor. Portraiture focal length for a DX crop sensor camera. The only problem is if you frame the subject the same, does not have the same compression. Lens compression is real, and other people go, no, lens compression is not real because if you change your distance, yeah, but that doesn't matter because if you frame your subject the same, the compression is real. Okay? You frame your subject the same, which is all the hell you do in portraiture anyway, damn it. The compression is real. So all these people actually are working backwards. They say, well, lens compression doesn't exist because if you actually zoom into the shot, it looks the same. A 50, that's not true because you frame the subject. You don't crop the hell out of a portrait shot. You frame it how you want. Nobody in their right mind is going to go, I'm going to step back and then I'm going to crop into the portrait shot. Well, that's going to make the image look fuzzy. I mean, you're using less of the actual translational information of the sensor. You frame the subject as you would any portrait shot. A 56 is still a 56 is still a 56, even though the field of view is an 85 millimeter roughly on the DX crop sensor camera. It still has the compression of a 56 millimeter camera, and also still, this is the reason why Fuji, for example, makes a 56 millimeter rather expensive lens in f1.2. It's like, why the hell does that lens have to be so damn fast? Because, and I've done these tests and so have others, you can do it if you want, to get the same look of the bokeh that is pleasing of the 85 millimeter at f1.8, you need to shoot that 56, for example, at f1.4 or faster, meaning f1.2 or f1.4. You still don't have the same compression. Once again, another big boon for full frame sensor cameras, okay? If you're going to be hardcore into landscape or hardcore into portraiture, it's FX cameras. Ha 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 ha. If you're spread out all over the place, does that mean that a DX camera is a piece of crap for portraiture or landscape? Well, it kind of is for landscape a little bit, but for portraiture, no, it's not. For landscape, it kind of is, though. Another thing is shadow, the amount of detail you have, because all exposure is gain in time. Full frame sensor camera, all things being equal, which never are equal, because there are some full frame sensor cameras that have DX pixel pitches, like the 51 megapixel Canon. But in general, okay, FX sensors have larger photo sites. They got bigger hoot owl eyes, meaning over the exact same period of time they have better gain. What that means is you got more information and more dynamic range of your shot where you're able to extract shadow detail that you cannot extract typically from a DX crop sensor camera. Just flat out, most DX have, depends on the camera, significantly less dynamic range. They do. So there's another boon to full frame cameras, full frame sensor cameras. DX has its advantages and full frame has its advantages. Bitching about lack of ultra wide lenses on DX. When people do that, I go, yeah, there you go. You need to buy yourself a full frame sensor camera. It's like, well, yeah, that's what a full frame sensor camera is for, damn it. If you're going to be bitching about portraiture and landscape, and you got your DX sensor camera in your hand, you're right. That's what a full-frame sensor camera is for. It just is. And a 56 is still a 56, even in crop mode. It is the same field of view as an 85 millimeter. A 56 is the same compression as a 56. And to get that same bokeh as the 85mm 1.8, the 56mm at 1.8 does not have the same bokeh as an 85 at 1.8. You're going to have a really damn fast lens, like an f1.4 or f1.2, which is what Fuji did. That's the reason why that damn Fuji lens is expensive, fast, big-eyed lens at f1.2. It has to be. To get the same bokeh as the 85mm 1.8, you have to be shooting that 56mm at f1.4 or f1.2. So what are you going to do? Everything in life is a compromise. Maybe someday in the future they'll create a modular camera where you can actually take out the DX sensor, which has higher pixel pitch, and like plug in an FX sensor. That would be a neat idea. However, it's probably not in anywhere in the near future. It's like if you buy this really expensive camera, if you want to go out wildlife photography and you want a bunch of translational information so you can crop in on your shots, you can pull out the FX sensor and stick in the DX sensor, and vice versa. That would be pretty neat, huh? Not very possible though. That's very unlikely. Just remember too, everybody's like, and I keep hearing this all the time. It's like, oh, there's just not enough lenses for DX. And I go, so what? If Nikon burned down all their DX lenses, that would not do anything to my Nikon D500, for example. I only have a few, out of over 240 some lenses, I've only got like 4 DX lenses. Maybe 4 or 5 lenses. So what? Who gives a damn? Use full frame lenses on my DX. The only really great DX lens is the one that's sitting on there right now. It's basically glued on there all the time. That's the 17 to 55 2.8. Lens came out in 2003. Wow. 13-year-old lens. You know what? That 13-year-old lens is batshit fast. It's got a true silent wave drive motor in it. It's fast. It's metal. It's made in Japan. The images from it are incredible. And since it's been around for 13 years, this is really the sleeper lens too, by the way. This has been around for 13 years. There's a lot of them out there, and you can find them used pretty damn cheap. Sometimes just crazy cheap. I hear a lot of people finding them now for like $500, and that's, I'll buy them all at $500. I've already got 2 of them, and you tell me where you find one at $500, I'll always buy it. It's worth that and then some. You could also use it on a full-frame sensor camera too. Works just fine. Even out of DX crop mode, of which about 60% of its range doesn't really have much vignetting hardly at all. Even in non-DX, meaning full frame mode. In other words, the circle of projection off of that lens is big enough to cover, through much of its range, a full frame sensor camera, which is really good news, right? So that's it. There's the pitfalls of DX and the pitfalls of full frame. There's no perfect world. This is why most pro shooters, are, they concentrate on 1 or 2 things. They concentrate on portraiture and landscape, or someone concentrates on sports action and wildlife. Sports action and wildlife, I say screw the FX. I don't need an FX camera ever. Screw it. If I only shoot sports action and wildlife, I don't need any of that stuff. Give me the D500 all day long. I don't care if full frame jumps off of cliffs and dies. If that's all I'm shooting, then I don't need a full frame sensor camera. If all I'm shooting is portraiture and landscape, I'm going to say screw DX. GX can take a jump off a cliff. DX does not cut it for landscape, especially. No baby. DX is plenty good enough to cut it for portraiture. But if all you're shooting is architectural, cityscape, and landscape and portraiture and weddings, full frame, or medium format. Fuji. That comes out April of next year. So there it is. That's the lowdown on DX versus FX. I made it short and sweet. Certainly did a lot better job than most people do when it comes to talking about both of them. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, drop me a buck or 2. Tell me to jump off a cliff. Whatever makes you happy. Catch you later. Bye.